Welcome to Dreamy Tales, your bedtime haven. Prepare to embark on a journey of tranquility and relaxation. I'm here to weave enchanting stories that will gently guide you into a restful night's sleep. Subscribe and let the soothing whispers of Dreamy Tales be your nightly companion. Peter Pan. Chapter 1. An Invitation to Neverland. Wendy stared up at the ceiling, unable to fall asleep. Stories of magical lands filled her head as she listened to the whisper of the wind outside. Her mother had read her tale after wondrous tale, fueling Wendy's wild imagination. But surely such places couldn't truly exist, could they? A strange sound caught her attention. Glancing towards the window, Wendy gasped at the sight of a glowing figure suspended outside. It appeared to be a boy, with tousled hair the color of wheat and eyes that shone like copper coins. Somehow, impossibly, he floated in the air without wings. Stealthily, Wendy climbed out of bed and crept to the window. She flung it open, startling the boy hovering outside. "Who are you?" she whispered in awe. The boy grinned. "I'm Peter Pan. I live in Neverland." "Neverland," Wendy repeated dreamily. Her mother had mentioned that magical name before. "It's an island second star to the right and straight on till morning. I come here looking for children who need a place to play." Peter surveyed Wendy keenly. "Would you like to visit Neverland?" Wendy hesitated, glancing back at her sleeping brothers John and Michael. Leaving home seemed frightening, yet this chance to see real magic was too wonderful to pass up. "I suppose one adventure couldn't hurt," she decided softly. Peter's eyes sparkled. "Then come, I'll show you how to fly." He took Wendy's hands in his own and kissed her forehead. At once, Wendy gasped as her feet lifted gracefully off the floor. Glancing down, she saw their village retreating below as they soared higher into the night sky. Thousands of stars glittered above like diamond dust as the sea glistened beneath them. Wendy had never felt such freedom and lightness before. She laughed joyfully, sweeping her fingers through billowy clouds. Beside her, Peter grinned proudly at her success. Before long, a shadowy shape emerged from the darkness ahead. Palm trees swayed upon a beach, surrounding turquoise shallows glowing in the moonlight. "Welcome to Neverland," Peter declared, guiding Wendy towards the mysterious island. What wonders might await her there under the shelter of night? Wendy couldn't wait to discover the secrets of this magical new land beyond her wildest dreams. Chapter 2. Exploration in Neverland Jungles. Wendy awoke surrounded by soft ferns as dawn light filtered through the foliage. Beside her, Peter's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Come on, there's so much to see today," he exclaimed, pulling her to her feet. The jungle glowed with vibrant shades of emerald and azure. Exotic blooms perfumed the air, and birds with brilliant plumage called from the treetops. Wendy gasped at flocks of butterflies with wings shimmering like opals. "It's like a living rainbow," she breathed. Peter led her along a trickling stream where miniature deer drank from the banks. They came upon a glen filled with lavender orchids growing as tall as trees. In the center, a pool rippled with silver fish. "This is my secret place," Peter shared with a smile. Continuing through twisting vines, they emerged in a clearing beside the sea. Rock formations created secluded tide pools below. Wendy laughed in wonder at purple starfish and iridescent sea slugs. As Peter collected shells, she spotted movement in the waves. Mermaids with hair flowing like riverweed, watching from the surf. The mermaid smiled and beckoned to them. Wendy and Peter waded in as the creatures swam nearer, their scales glittering emerald and topaz. "Greetings, children of the stars," one mermaid spoke musically. "Would you like to see our coral gardens?" Wendy glanced at Peter hesitantly. He nodded encouragement, so she took a mermaid's outstretched hand and found herself inhaling effortlessly beneath the surface. All around stretched rainbow forests of seaweed and coral. Schools of angelfish darted past like dots of colored light. Surfacing at last, Wendy gasped at a new vista, a beach where lost boys played at the tide line. One spotted them and cried, "Peter's back, and he brought a girl!" The boys crowded around eagerly as Peter introduced Wendy Bird from London. That evening, full of new wonders, Wendy sat by the campfire sharing her world with the enchanted listeners. In return, the lost boys told tales of capers in the jungles and stars that fell like raindrops. Wendy smiled, feeling at home amongst her new friends under the shelter of Neverland's magic. What other marvels might tomorrow hold? She could hardly wait to find out. Chapter 3. Dangers in the Woods. The shadows of the dense jungle canopy grew long as evening fell. Wendy and the lost boys laughed together around the campfire, roasting fruit and sharing stories of their day's adventures. But Wendy began to feel uneasy as strange sounds arose from the dark woods. Owls hooted eerily, and unseen creatures rustled in the undergrowth. She shivered, inching closer to Peter by the fire. "What was that?" Peter smiled. "Nothing to fret over. The forest only seems scary because you can't see." Still, when the last embers faded, he walked Wendy to her wigwam. "Sleep well. I'll be near if you need me." That night, Wendy dreamed of a looming figure stalking the jungle trails. She bolted upright with a gasp as an ominous snap echoed outside. Grabbing her shawl, Wendy crept from the shelter. Mist hung heavily amongst the trees. "Peter?" Wendy called nervously. No cheerful reply came. Was that a shadow shifting between the trunks? She quickened her pace, heart pounding. Suddenly, Wendy crashed into something solid yet yielding. Hands seized her shoulders, and a foul breath rasped, "Avast!" She screamed, only to find herself gazing up at Peter's grinning face. "Gotcha," he chuckled. Wendy took a shaky breath, swatting his arm. "That wasn't funny. I thought you were..." Her words died as a haunted chuckle echoed behind them. Spinning, they glimpsed a shadowy figure clutching a cutlass through the vines. "Hook!" Peter growled, taking Wendy's hand. They plunged into the misty forest as stealthy footfalls pursued. Low branches hooked at Wendy's shawl, but Peter pulled her free. At last, they scrambled up a tall silk cotton tree. Below, Hook prowled with First Mate Starkey, muttering of juicy prey just out of reach. Only when the pirates' lantern lights receded did Peter and Wendy relax against the swinging boughs. "Sorry about that scare," murmured Peter. "Still, part of the fun is outwitting old codfish Hook. And now you've learned, the forest may seem scary, but within her secrets lie magic too." Wendy smiled, comforted by Peter's reassurance under the shelter of leaf and star. Chapter 4. Fun with Mermaids. The morning sun danced upon the rippling waters as Wendy strolled along the shore with her new friend Tiger Lily. In the distance, melodic voices could be heard echoing across the surf. "Come," said Tiger Lily. "The mermaids are calling us to play." Wendy gazed out at the rocking waves where trails of bubbles rose and burst. Suddenly, heads crested the swells, crowned with drifting locks of algae and shells. "Greetings, landwalkers," called one mermaid, her scales shimmering rose and pearl. "Join us for a picnic under the sea." Tiger Lily took Wendy's hand. "Do not fear. The kiss of the merfolk allows humans to breathe our air." Wendy nodded, steeling her nerves as the mermaids drew near. One pressed rose-petal lips lightly to Wendy's brow, and suddenly her lungs filled easily though submerged. Below, rainbow gardens of coral fanned in all directions, sheltering darting angelfish and seahorses that curled their plumed tails. The mermaids swam alongside, weaving circles as they sang. Wendy laughed with joy, dancing through waving fronds beside her new friends. She felt light as sea foam, flying across an underwater dreamscape filled with life and light. At last, the mermaids led them to a secret lagoon walled by gleaming towers of brain coral. There, a picnic of clams and kelp awaited beneath swaying jellyfish lanterns. As the sun sank, Wendy bade farewell to her charming companions, but the memory of that wondrous day would stay with her forever, like a pearl nestled in her heart. That evening, she joined the Lost Boys' maypole dance, swirling in their circle as Tinkerbell's pixie dust sparkled in the firelight. All too soon, Wendy collapsed happily to the sand, filled with friendships both in air and on the shore below. Chapter 5. Confrontation with Hook. The children's laughter rang through the trees as Wendy played hide and seek with the Lost Boys, but their merriment froze at a bone-chilling laugh in the distance. "Hook!" growled Peter, grabbing Wendy's hand. They crashed through foliage toward the shadowy shore, where waves lapped a towering vessel. On deck, a sinister figure clung to the rail, his jackal's grin glinting gold. Captain Hook had taken Tinkerbell prisoner in an iron birdcage, dangling precariously over the churning sea. "Surrender, Peter Pan, or your precious fairy gets a watery grave," he cackled. Wendy's heart clenched at Tinkerbell's frightened wails. Peter's fists tightened, but they were outnumbered on the open beach. That night, as the pirates feasted below decks in a drunken stupor, Peter gathered Wendy and the Lost Boys for a whispered planning. Under cover of darkness, they clambered stealthily aboard the Jolly Roger. Wendy kept watch as Peter sawed at Tinkerbell's cage with a hatchet. Just as the door swung open, Mr. Smee's grating growl sounded on the stairs. The crew poured onto the deck, brandishing cutlasses. "Avast, Mater Pan!" Hook roared. "Say goodbye!" But as he lunged, Peter grabbed the cage and flung it outward with all his might. Wendy gasped, then cheered as a jingling streak darted skyward, and the cage splashed into the cove below. Furious, Hook dueled Peter along the yards, their blades flashing moonlight. Wendy grabbed a fallen dagger, creeping behind the captain. As Hook disarmed Peter at sword point, she jabbed the hilt into his boot. Hook howled, losing balance. Peter easily flipped him overboard into the churning sea. As the crew rushed the rail, the children let loose the sails and shoved off, speeding into the night with whoops of victory. Back on shore, a weary yet joyful Tinkerbell embraced Wendy with damp, glowing wings. "Thank you for your daring. You have proven true friends of Neverland this night," she smiled, before disappearing in a flurry of light. Wendy smiled, knowing no darkness could conquer where courage and unity prevailed. The morning sun rising over Neverland found the Lost Boys playing amongst the frothing waves as seagulls wheeled above. But Wendy stared pensively out to sea, knowing her time in this magical realm was drawing to a close. Beside her, Peter asked, "What's troubling you, Wendy Bird?" She sighed. "I'll miss your island's wonders every day. But my family will worry if I don't return home. Peter nodded understandingly. Then I shall fly you back myself before the stars come out. That evening, the lost boys gathered tearfully to bid their friend farewell. You'll visit again, won't you? They begged. Wendy promised with a smile. Then Peter swooped her into his arms, and with a kick, they soared upward together. Beneath, Neverland's peaks faded into mist as wide waters rolled out to the horizon. Ahead, London's spires emerged from the dusk, like fellow companions welcoming Wendy home. Too soon, her village's familiar rooftops drew near and Peter descended into her backyard. He hugged Wendy tightly. Should you ever wish to return, just call my name on the breeze and I'll come. With a final wave, Peter shot skyward and was gone. Quietly, Wendy slipped into her room. Her brother still slept as before, but Wendy knew she'd never be quite the same. She had discovered mysteries beyond imagining in Neverland and forged bonds that would last forever. As Wendy drifted off to dreams of silvery mermaids and lost boys' laughter, somewhere far across the sea, another little girl sat awake, dreaming of Peter Pan. For as long as children believe, his spirit of youth and magic would continue flying through every child's heart. The end.